Welcome to the TFD Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Sullivan, and this is the show where we break down popular science into easily digestible and actionable information to give you the blueprint to be a high performer in your life. Today, I'll be chatting to TFD Performance Dietitian Jack Doherty to recap my most recent visit to the US of A to support now number 2 UFC Flyweight Kai Kara-France and UFC Featherweight champion and number 2 pound for pound best fighter in the world, Alexander the Great Volkanovski. It's a great episode, so let's get straight to it.
Everyone, welcome back to the TFD Performance Podcast. Just myself, Jack Doherty, and Jordan Sullivan. We're just going to go over today a bit of a recap of the last few weeks, the Eternal MMA cards, and of course, Volk's camp in America. So I'll hand you over to Joy just to start off with how the last few weeks have been.
Oh, you don't want to chat to me beforehand? We're just going to go straight into it. No small talk.
We were small talk for 2 hours before we've done this, so I thought we'd just start off with the actual real question.
Yeah, just straight into it. But yeah, so what are we going to go over? Yeah, lots have been happening. So I guess what we want to do is recap. I was recently away for about 3.5 weeks. I was overseas with Kai Kara-France for UFC Fight Night Columbus, where he fought Askar Askarov for the title eliminator, which was a really good trip and ended really well. And then again, we had a week off, and then I was staying with Frank Hickman, who's the wrestling coach for City Kickboxing, or one of the wrestling coaches. And then we flew to Atlanta, and then we drove from Atlanta down to Jacksonville, Florida for UFC 273 with Alexander the Great Volkanovski. So when he fought Korean Zombie. So it was it was an interesting trip. It was quite long, like 3.5 weeks felt really long there, but it was good. Like, it was successful, right? I think I'll start. Obviously, let's start with in chronological order with Kai. I'll let you fire some questions though, so I just don't blab around.
Yeah, I think because every time we come back from a trip, like, we get like a plethora of questions about how was it, was it an amazing experience and stuff like that. I think a lot of people see, the embedded, or they see our videos, and that's kind of like a little glimpse into what the week's like. But like, what is it from your perspective, like from when you land to when you leave back home? Like, what is the whole process for you? How does it work in terms of, scheduling yourself, the pressure of it all, like kind of the intricacies that people kind of want to know, or have asked us many a time once we return from a trip?
It kind of looks like extreme sleep deprivation and extreme starvation because you don't eat a lot. But yeah, it's interesting. I was funny you say that, because I was having a conversation. We were at a barbecue last night, and there was a guy there who was really into UFC. And I don't really like to bring it up when people ask like what you do for work. You just kind of like bounce around it. But then like eventually someone brought it up, and they're like, "Oh my God, that must be like the coolest job." And like, that must be awesome. And it is. Like, don't get me wrong. I think we have probably the coolest job you could have. And it is awesome. It's so cool being exposed to that, but there's so much that goes into it that people don't understand. Like, and I'll go through it, like just purely the planning from the get-go. So the way that it works, say when I go over with Kai or Volk or whatever, so the guys fly you out, and we're obviously based in Australia. I'm in Brisbane, and a lot of the fights happen in the US. Obviously, I don't think UFC is coming back to Australia anytime soon because of our COVID laws and the lockdown and the quarantine for people who aren't vaccinated. So touch wood, that changes, but I don't think it's happening anytime soon. But what we have to do is we always have to fly over to the States. So like, before you even get going over there, you're on this 14 to anywhere between 14 to 30 hour trip getting over. And I think the first thing that takes a lot of people by surprise is like what you have to take. And people don't understand. Like, I think people think we have like access to kitchens in hotels. Like, if we stayed at an Airbnb, like I did for that Houston card with Israel, we got the whole team in Airbnb. That was cool. We had a kitchen, but that's like a real rarity. A lot of the time we're just staying in a hotel room, and you're taking a portable kitchen with you. And what that looks like is, more often than not, we're just taking like a hot plate. And then I've got these big bag of spices, of about 40 different spices, all sodium-free spices. And then there's specific things that I take from Australia, knowing that they are ingredients that the guys like and they work really well, like sugar-free chopped chips. And there's an brand of olive oil that I really like, that I like to take over with this. And then even things like cleaning material. I know that seems weird, like you just get it there, but you want to have all of that ready to go. So when you set it up, because more often than not, you fly in on, say, the Sunday or Monday or whatever, you get in and you start straight away. So like the first thing is like your packing, your bag is just ridiculous. Like 80% of my bag is cooking material, and it's like the weight cut gear. You got a scale, then you've got like our blood pressure and like all the sweet sweat, and you've got all the thermometers and everything else. That's all in there. And like 10% of it is like clothes that you wear. So you're just essentially wearing like the same couple of clothes. So you land, do your big trip over, like you get that out of the way. Once you land, like the UFC pick you up from the airport, there's usually a driver there and they hold your name out and say, which is nice. So you don't have to worry about like Ubers and whatnot. And then you go back to the hotel and you're pretty much, depending when you get in. So when I got to Columbus, this was ridiculous. Actually, I remember it was a crazy trip. I went Brisbane, Sydney to San Francisco to Chicago to Columbus. So it was a big trip. And I think I got in at midnight and I was the first one in the team to get there. So I got in, and then Eugene and Twist, who's another city kickboxing coach, they got in at 4 a.m. that morning. So I had to stay up, and then I waited for them. So like straight off the bat, you're not getting like any sleep whatsoever. It was just ridiculous. Those guys got in, and then Kai got in the next day at about 11. So luckily I had time to set up and get everything ready. Me and Eugene went for a shop at like 9:10 that morning. Kai got in about midday, but as soon as he got in, that's when the fun started. We just started prepping. And I think in terms of like, other than what we bring physically, obviously you're planning out all the meals ahead of time, right? And we have a fight camp plan. And with Kai, it's interesting, especially because I think it was our 9th camp together. So I actually have like 3, 4, 5 different approaches that I'll use for fight week with Kai, depending what his weight is coming in, because Kai can come in a little bit heavier, which is more than fine, depending on what the game plan is. Or, if it's a predominantly like a striking type setup, will come in a bit lighter, and then we can get away with a lot more food and whatnot. So we have a certain type of style for that. Obviously for Askar, he's a very heavy wrestler. So it was like the game plan was to come in a bit heavier. So we used a different type of fight week strategy, but I'll let you go on. So I stopped babbling.
I think that's a real important part of it. What you just said is that even though you've worked with Kai and these guys multiple times, there is different protocols and different techniques that you use. It's not just the stock standard every time. I think that, a lot of people would assume that because we work with this person or work with someone for a long period of time, that it'll be the same, just the same process over and over again. But like you said, it's a forever changing thing in terms of game plan and obviously protocols. Something that someone asked me the other day also was, which leads into this, is that what do you find the main differences between working with these different guys? Obviously you had back-to-back camps this time. That would be a good example of like, what is the different approach, or how do you think it's different between working with Kai for that week and then switching over to working with Volk?
Yeah, well, they're different bodies, right? And there's a lot that goes into it, like subtle differences, I guess, from an outside perspective. If you were just looking at it, like, I guess you could break it down and go, yeah, these guys are just doing like the same principles. And you are like, you're using the fight week strategies where you're reducing carbs, fiber, salt, you're doing a water load, you got the sweat. Like everyone follows that template, but it's the intricate differences, right? Like, again, like Kai came in a bit heavier for this, and there's certain foods that I know I can get away with feeding him. And then there's certain foods that like I would give him the previous one that we fought Cody in December, that I would never give him for this one, because I know we need to push a little harder, say in the glycogen depletion or whatever. Or I know for the training that it's a lot more like wrestling heavy. So I need to fuel him a bit more pre-training, so I can put a lot of his carbs there instead of say having it before bed or in the morning or whenever else. When you compare it, say like two guys like Kai and Volk, obviously there's a weight differential, and like Volkanovski, he's short, but he's a nugget. Like he's literally just this powerful ball of muscle, and he's such like an athletic human, and he moves a lot of weight. Like that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like we won't go into this, but like now that there's this whole like lightweight chat, that Volk going up to lightweight, like Volk is just as heavy as the lightweights that are competing. He's just so dense with muscle, but because he's so dense with muscle, there's a lot of water to play with. And so he responds to certain strategies, say water loading, much more than say someone like Kai does. So I know that we've got more flex, that if we water load a bit more aggressively and say use a protocol. And when we talk about like protocols with water loading, you can have say what we call like step ladder approaches, where you say, there's generic numbers, but like 8 liters, 4 liters, 2 liters cut, or you could do like 8 liters, 8 liters, 8 liters, 8 liters cut, or like you have these different approaches depending what time that they start the weight cut, how aggressive you want to go with the water load. With Volk using an aggressive water load, moves heaps of weight, but I wouldn't do that with Kai because I know his body doesn't respond to it. Same as when we reduce salt, like Volk has quite a lot of salt in his diet. So when you remove it, it comes out pretty fast. Whereas Kai eats like relatively clean, quote unquote, all year round, like, and his foods aren't that salty. So when you take out salt, you don't get as much of a response. Like, again, when you're looking at it from like up the top and like a helicopter view down, it looks like you're just using the same principles, but it's these little things within the principles that make the difference. And you might look at that and listen to me say this and go, it's a bit extreme. And I would say, yeah, I agree. It's really extreme. But these guys, this is like Volkanovski is the world champion. He's the best in the world in that weight division. He's the number 2 pound for pound guy in the world. So you have to be that extreme. Like these little 1%ers, these little things, these little details, they matter. They make a difference. And that's what my job is. They can make weight. They can absolutely make weight. They've all done it. I've worked with all of them for years. They know the process, but they're getting me in there. So every time that we're refining this process and getting that little bit, even if it's a 0.5%, 0.25%, a little bit extra that we can have. So when we enter the cage, you're in the best shape possible.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The stakes at that level, the stakes are so high in terms of the weight. If you miss weight, you lose 20% of your purse, and that could be, for someone who's earning a lot of money or champion, can be a huge whack. So the pressure that's
for the title.
Yeah, they're exactly right. And the pressure that's on you doing that thing, I think that leads back to what we always talk about, is like knowing your athlete, and everyone's an individual. And I think that's the whole concept. I think Fight Week, they see people cooking or the bath component of it, but just that it's that daily update. So I remember like in Houston or when we're in Eternal, it's like waking up super early, checking the phone and seeing where everyone's at, and then having to game plan every single day depending on that number. It's not just like, oh, here's a plan, then you should be right by weighing day. It's that every day, from Monday, every day of Fight Week, checking what the weight is and making those small, intricate changes, which don't seem like a lot, but can make those big changes in the end.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? And I think that's why I know that's why the guys fly us out, right? Because you could very well do it remotely. Like you could very well give them a plan and do this, but at that level, it's not like everything runs the plan. In an ideal world, everything would run the plan and all of our numbers on our spreadsheets and everything, it would just work out. And a lot of the time we're pretty close, but these guys are doing a lot of media. They're traveling. Sometimes they can't get a workout in, or they can't get this meal in and something happens, and you've got to be able to adjust and on the fly. You've got to be able to just make that happen. And like Israel in Houston was a good example. Like for whatever reasons that he arrived a day later, so we were a day behind the plan, which all of a sudden just completely changed this plan that I had. And you had to make sure every day that, yeah, we were achieving this, but then you're also balancing that mental side of it with them where they're stressing out because they're a day behind and they should be seeing this lighter number. And then you're trying to affirm with them, like, no, it's fine. Like I got this covered, and you do need to have it covered and you have to know what you're doing. So you're balancing all of these things. Like I know with Kai's, because we've done it so many times and you spreadsheet it, you can go back pretty reliably back on the data and be like, okay, we're tracking pretty well for what we're doing, like the approach that we're doing, and we are tracking well, or we're not tracking well, and let's go and problem solve. And what is it that, why isn't it doing this? Are we using something new that maybe has a higher salt content? Are we doing something in terms of training where like they might be overtraining, they could be inflamed, holding fluid, like are they stressed out about whatever? I've had, I don't know if this is too personal with Kai, but we had a camp years ago where he had some things going on with personal relationships, and that had a huge impact on his weight cut. So I know for a fact that if there's external things going on in Kai's life and the stress levels are high, that will absolutely affect how we sweat and how that weight comes off during that fight week. So you need to account for that. So maybe you do have to push and go a little bit more aggressive and change the plan. So, and that can happen during fight week. Something can happen during fight week where these guys are getting really worked up and you have to change the plan and adjust on the fly while still doing everything you can to get those extra 1%ers. Because like you said, stakes are high at this level. Like this is the top of the top. You don't get any higher than this. This is the absolute ceiling. So you have to be able to offer these guys something and continually refine and refurbish the process so to get those extra 1%ers.
Yeah. And also like another aspect to this week, which I don't think people see, which people are always interested in, I think is our role as a support system. I think that, especially yourself, like witnessing it with in Houston with Bloods, especially when he made that kind of weight. How that whole week, a lot of people see us crunching numbers and doing the cooking part of it, but the support system that we're responsible for and making sure these guys feel okay during fight. Like obviously we're not holding pads, we're not doing that kind of thing, but we can be a massive component of that mental health, that support system to make them feel okay, which as you mentioned directly relates to how they sweat, how they feel. So how do you feel like, did you feel that's like a major role for yourself, like during these big weeks as well?
Massively, especially say with Kai, it's such a huge mental thing now, right? Like, because Kai, like I said, he knows this. He even knows the different systems we use, like depending where his weight is at. So he could theoretically go and just, look, he'd get like someone else in and even say it, but like he said it before, and it's true. Like I know his body better than he knows it, and he's put all of that trust in me to make sure that we get this process done. And it's like it's a psychological thing, because no matter how many times you've done this, it's always stressful. Like I remember when I was used to make weight for like my jiu-jitsu competitions back in the day, is like I would stand on the scale being this guy, like being TFD, and I would have that person on my shoulder saying something, and then I'd have athlete me on my shoulder who would still stress, even though I was doing everything properly. Like there's still that back of your mind stress, and all of the athletes say that. It's like, yeah, I know it's good, but what if? Because it's not like when you're at a local show and it's a couple people just like standing around. You could probably hit the promoter and be like, look, like he tried his best, like let's not injure, it's not worth it, like he's not making any money, fuck. And most promoters like, yeah, fair enough. But like on that level, it's your job, you're a complete professional, you've got thousands of people in that room, you've got hundreds of cameras, and you got millions of people watching worldwide. Like you can't do it. You need to treat it professionally, you need to be a professional about it. So like with Kai, it's like you're being that support system. And then like with Alex, again, everyone stresses about it, and to different degrees. Like I don't want to like give up too much away, but like Volk, it definitely plays on his mind, because we lose a lot of weight, right? Like we move a lot of weight. So it's just natural that it's constantly on our mind, and it's more like reassuring and being like, hey, I checked my weight here. Like, this is what it said. Is that normal? Yeah, that's normal. Okay, thank you. Like, that's good. Hey, I woke up this morning, it was this weight. Like, is that good? Yeah, that's a good drop. This is why, like, this is the amount of weight we're expecting. That's right on target. Good work. Okay, sweet. Let's keep going. Or, hey, man, I measured my weight after like training and I lost this much. Is that a good indication? Yeah, that's your normal sweat rate. That's what we normally do in training. Good drop. Like, you're full of water. You're still looking good. Like, you look good on the pads. Okay, sweet. So you're always like reaffirming them, because the last thing you want, like I always think, imagine if you're on a plane and like you're going through turbulence and you saw like the stewardess start freaking out and being like, oh shit, like you would lose it. But like, what do you do? Like the first thing everyone does is when that's happening, you look at the stewardess or the steward walking past, and if they're just walking past with the drink thing, smiling, you're like, oh, yeah, it's not that bad, whatever, I'm going back to sleep. So that's essentially the role we're playing.
Yeah, I think like what I learned over the years of doing all these fight weeks is that people want us around. That's leads back to the sleep deprivation. It's just like, there's not much chance of us walking off and going doing our own thing and stuff like that. It's more like people want us around all the time, even if that support system, even though if it's not like, we've been around watching pads or just not doing much, but just being in the room. And I think that's something people don't see, is the expectation for us to be around a lot. And too, well, obviously we're happy to do it because we love supporting our guys, but that's a demand that not many people see. It's not just like we cook and we leave. We're there basically 24/7. And that's why we don't get much sleep. Because I remember even in Houston, like it was like 11:30 at night, and you called me like, you have to go to the hotel, drop this off. So it's just like you're on call for 24/7 to make sure that everyone is feeling good. So when people see us at the events, when we're at the Eternal and I look super rough, or we look super rough after the weight cuts, it's just that it's not just the weight cut, it's the whole week. So we look rough for a specific reason. That's because, during that week we've been around a lot, and especially, we jump in the saunas with the guys most of the time. We're in that hot environment most of the time. So I think it's just an encompassing event that, a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes stuff. They just see us rock up a weighing day looking very rough.
Yeah, I think that's a misconception with it too, is like, what do you actually do fight week? And it's like, you're working every waking hour. Like, especially for me, like in Columbus and in Jacksonville, like you try to keep your same schedule. Like I have to train in the morning regardless. Like I get very mentally unsettled if I don't train. And like I've got my own athletic goals that I'm like working towards. So it like really unhinges me if I don't do it. obviously you need to get your work done. So you just adjust your schedule. So like say for Columbus, I was up, like I was rooming with Kai. So like I didn't want to disturb his sleep. So I'd like pack a bag beforehand, put it at the door and sneak out at like 5 a.m. and like make sure that he like didn't hear me. And I'd ask him that day, like, hey man, did you hear me when I was like getting out? He said, no, like he was super quiet. So it's all right. And then like the night before the weight cut, because I needed to get him like a good sleep, I just slept in the workout room. And I was like, fuck it. Like I'm not going to just risk like disturbing his sleep when it could mean more weight loss. So but what I'm getting at is like you're up early, you train, and then like you're waiting for them to get up. Okay, get up, get their weight, game plan, like what the plan is going to be for the day with meals, cook them breakfast. Okay, let's do that. What do you got on for the day? Got to get them a snack like a few hours later, and then you got to find them for lunch. And you're constantly going, like it's on like a 2 to 3 hour rotation. You're always giving them something, or you're always checking in with them to make sure that they're getting the water in, because sometimes they forget, like they're walking around, they don't have their water bottle. You got to be able to run and do this and be like, hey man, like I know like you need to get more fluid in, don't feel like water, let's go get a coffee, or let's get like a shake in or something like this. You need to keep the fluids up. So you're constantly doing it. And I think a lot of like the other guys on the team, like their job doesn't really start until later on at night, because a lot of the time, or all of the time, if you're doing this right, if you're fighting at 10 p.m., you're training at 10 p.m. You want to get your body as used to that fight day routine as possible. That goes with like timings of meals and everything. Like you want to get your body tuned for that fight day. So a lot of the team, like, and it's cool, like it's good for them. They get to chill out and they get to like wake up and have breakfast together and go hang out during the day and do whatever. But it's like for us, we're on that entire day. And then if they need something like when they're like about to go to bed or after they go to bed or whatever, like we've got to go get it. So it's like get up, do your own training early for a couple of hours, but then you're on call for the next 18 hours. So it's like for those days that you're away, you don't really get any downtime. Like this is why, like, if you've ever emailed me or tried to message me or whatever during those fight weeks, it's very hard to get back to because you just constantly go.
And this is the other part we wanted to recap. Also, speaking about like how busy and like time poor you are in these periods. Saying the last March Madness just finished, and when April was a lot of fight cards. Since you've been away, and probably a week either side of you being away, we've had probably like 100, if not 200 people weigh in locally and internationally. So like, how do you find trying to balance between all these factors? Because obviously it's when it's busy, when these guys want attention, and then we've got globally as a team like 100 odd people weighing in over those particular weeks.
Yeah, like it helps, like obviously having you guys and having a good team. Like if you try to do this yourself, you're just kidding yourself. Like there's just no way you can manage that much volume of work like between yourself. Like you've only got so much water to put between the plants type thing. So yeah, having a good team and you guys definitely helps. But that's it. You've got to, I think time management is something that you get really good at, and then figuring out within time slots that you have with athletes, not cutting the chit chat, but like understanding what is most important and what is going to give them the most value for the time that you do have with them is really important. And then again, being that support system, like a lot of the time, like I'll personally like schedule times with guys to talk to them, and you talk to them, but that's not like the time consuming. It's when they're freaking out and when they're worrying about things, they want that reassurance. That's when you spend a lot of your time doing it. And you need to account for that. Like at the end of the day, it's fine having this ideal, image of what you think like a work day should be, where you go 8 till 4 or whatever, and you block out like these 30-minute appointments and blah, 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 and you just knock up your notes and send them away. And like, that's fine. That's super generic. And that's not what you do at this level. Like, and it's rough to say, and you don't want to promote hustle culture or whatever, but at this level, you need to be available to these guys. Like you need to be available to calm their mind and to be that reassurance to them. Because again, like, the plan will work, like especially the system we have when you work it out for all the individual athletes. If they do it correctly, which they will do, it'll work, but it's also managing all of that stress. And like at the end of the day, you want your athlete to be safe. You want them to be stress-free. You want them to get through this process and be in the best shape possible to have the next best fight of their career or the best event or whatever it is. So you make time to do that. It's just like, that's a reality of it. If like you want to get into this type of work, like what we call like a lifestyle type job, you need to really commit a lot to yourself, and it makes it really hard, but like you got to do it. Like it's just the fact of it.
That's the number one thing people comment about myself and yourself is how much we're on the phone. And it's like, we're not on the phone being rude or flicking through Instagram. Most of the time that I'm on the text or email on my phone when I'm out, probably 7 days a week. I think it's just one of those jobs that it's just like, it's not, it's it's nonstop. If someone, generally I try to take a Sunday off, but if someone's really in need, like it doesn't really happen. I think, like you said, we're not trying to, promote hustle culture or whatever, but it's just one of the realities of the job. It's just like, it's not a 9 to 5, and it's something that really takes some time. And when you have as many athletes on the books as we do, it's just something that you've got to kind of, I don't think that that's the side of people think, like, obviously someone messages you 4 times a week and they think, oh, I'm getting support, but we have 50, 60 people for one of us at one point wanting that same support. So it's a very time consuming thing, but I think that's the balance that we do very well, is the pact between supporting them and also, giving everyone, doing those weight cut weeks and making sure everyone's in that kind of team effort. Because when you go overseas, then I have to like kind of manage those local cards, and then it's like imperative for the success that, I've got Dojo, who's absolutely fantastic, and when I'm up in Queensland doing the eternal cards, he's always on call, driving us around, doing the weight cuts and supervising. He's becoming, an expert in the weight cutting himself. And now I've got Lauren on board, who also, the past eternal card a couple of weeks ago, she was imperative of helping myself with some of the boys in Melbourne, also driving us around, helping us cook and stuff like that. So that team effort, I think, is becoming more and more important, because when it was just me and you, it was stress city. And now we've got a bit more leeway to kind of get some guys to help us out.
Yeah, and it can be madness. And I know we're like making it out like it's just like work. And I think, it is for big reality, it is work. But it's not like, I think when I've had other jobs like years and years ago, it's like you're kind of going there for the purpose of like, okay, I'm going to build this person and that's going to contribute to my paycheck and do this. And like, yes, obviously, like this is a business and we're making money from it, but like you want to put in that time. Like I want to put in that time and be there for the clients, because especially with what we do, you can make a real impact with them. Like, and you can make a real positive impact if you do put that time in with them. And like, I guess the goal is, if you put enough time and effort in with someone and you have a positive enough influence with them, and you show them how to make weight properly and they do it successfully, and you teach them enough about the process and about their body, they can go share that knowledge with 5-6 guys in their gym. Like that's how you make like real sustainable, real change in the community, is you put that time and effort with these guys. And I think whereas a lot of people like would have viewed the workload of like, oh, this is crazy busy. Like, oh my God, like, I don't know how you guys do it. Like I view it as like, this is a crazy, great like opportunity to be able to make all of this change in these communities, and people trust us enough to be able to do this with them. And you see that impact that you have across all of these gyms. Like going back to like these fight weeks, is like you see the analytics on like your socials and everything go crazy when you're with like Volkanovski or Kai France. And that's the one thing that I'm so grateful with these guys, is because, especially because I've worked with Kai for so long, and me and Volk have worked together for years, and we really mastered his weight cut down to 45 and made it a lot easier for him, especially like with the rebound, which is like was a big problem for him, was like putting weight back on and like feeling good at a particular weight. Once you get all of that right, you get these guys at the top of the level and they're kind of singing your praises. That has a lot of influence in the communities. That has a lot of influence to all the young guys in Australia and New Zealand, whoever else around the world, that they go, hey, if like Kai France is doing this and Alex Volkanovski's doing this, this is probably like the way to do it. And that's not necessarily like, hey, we have to go work with TFD. It's like, well, there's a better way to make weight than just like what most people are doing right now.
Yeah, and I think that, and also like, is a stress level, I think, because, like you said, like we obviously have a lot of care for our guys. And, a lot of the times when you work with someone for a long time, they become your friend, or if not a very good friend. So those, when you have that relationship with these guys, the stress levels do increase, because, you got that different level of care. Not saying that we don't have that for other people, but it just adds a level of stress when you have that close relationship with someone. So that's why I think it was the last eternal couple of weeks ago, someone was commenting on like how like stressed I was at that point. I'm just like, trying to explain to them, which is hard. I'm like, this is my job. This is what I get paid for. But also I have a lot of passion and care for my job, but not only my job, but the people that I'm working with. So that's why I'm stressed. And I think sometimes what people don't see, like obviously we do sacrifice our health one time, like in eternal, some people saw me looking incredibly rough at the weigh-ins. When I went to Houston with Doherty, I got COVID. And then the weeks when I got back, I had some pretty bad GI issues, weren't recovering well. I couldn't really eat more than 1 meal a day. So when I was in that hot environment, I did the sauna with the boys, and the thing, I was actually kind of flared up my GI system even more. I couldn't even keep water down. So I was feeling really horrific. So it's kind of these things that what people don't see is the behind the scenes and what we're putting into it. And I think that's the most important thing. It is a business, but what we put into it is a lot more than just the business side of thing. It's a lot of care and love for the guys we work with.
Yeah, like it shows, right? Like, and I think that's why when you're building a team, it's important you get people who are on that level, right? Like I get a lot of people and students, like especially off the back end of these fight weeks, again, like they watch the embedded, on YouTube, or they might see like interviews at UFC or hear the guys talk about us and doing this. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. Like these guys get to travel the world. They get to, go hang out and all these cameras and lights and the inspired unemployed are making TikToks and they get to see it in person. Like they see all these things and like, it's so cool. It's like, yeah, like it is cool. Like, don't get me wrong, it is cool, but that's not the goal, right? Like, I don't think any of us do any of this and be like, oh yeah, it's so cool, we get to fly to Vegas. Like after a while, you get very over that and like you realize it for what it is, but like you get over flying to Vegas, but I don't think you get over the fact that what that represents and the impact that can have and the meaning that it has for what the overall like value and mission of the company is, which is making this safer for everyone. Like, yes, it's a business and we've got to do this and we've got to pay bills. Like, yeah, but like, why not do all of that and still have this huge impact? And I think it comes part and parcel. And I think a lot of young people who want to get in this area maybe don't understand that. Like, okay, well, if you want to do it and you want to have that impact, you kind of have to go to the next level with your clients and really have that relationship, because food is something really personal. And when you talk about cutting weight, like it's potentially very risky if you get it wrong, and you need your clients to trust you to a certain level so that you can do these positive things for them and get these changes. But you can't get that trust if you're just going to book a 30-minute appointment with them once a month and then have that call, or maybe even once a fortnight, and kind of have a very dry call where you're just running over things. Like you need to develop a relationship enough where they're confident in you that what you're doing is working. And if something's going wrong, they feel comfortable enough to come to you and say that and like talk about their worries and whatnot. And part of that parcel is you need to get to know them really well for them to do that.
100%. Well, we're coming up to 30 minutes and that's what we decided. We'll have a quick little recap. So we'll wrap it up now. If there's anything you guys want us to go over or discuss further on the podcast between me and Geordie, please just contact either of us on our Instagram. Any final words, Geordie?
Yeah, but think about this as well. Like while we're on the fight weeks, like it is busy, and I do appreciate that there's a lot of cool things that do go on. Like I'm talking about how much like we're kind of blasé about it. It is cool. Like don't get me wrong, I am very appreciative of the opportunities that we get. I have always thought about this. Is there things that you guys do want to see when we're away with these fight weeks? Like we are away a lot between me, Jack, and Ryan. Like we're always at these fight weeks. If there's any other content or any other questions or things that you guys want us to explore or want us to explain about what we're doing, why we're doing it, or just how processes work, shoot us a message and let us know, and we'll put that in the back burner. We'll put that in the content machine that is our head of media, Grizzly Dwayne Scott. So we'll if there's anything you guys want to see, just let us know and we'll make sure we get that out to you.
Awesome.
And there it is, another episode of the TFD Performance Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then be sure to leave us a 5-star review. And if there's anything else you would like to hear us break down, please send us a message on our socials and let us know. This podcast will be available through the podcast app, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and if you follow along with our socials at @the_fight dietitian, you can see all of the best bits from our podcast episodes. Thanks for listening in, and I'll see you guys for the next episode of the TFD Performance Podcast.